Hi, welcome to the Crypto Republic. Before we dive in, if you're serious about staying ahead in this once-in-a-lifetime financial shift, make sure you like this video, drop a comment, and subscribe to the Crypto Republic. Please share this video with everyone before this moment hits the mainstream. What's unfolding right now inside the world's largest financial institutions isn't about a speculation, it's confirmation. Top bank insiders are quietly warning that the global liquidity structure, the foundation of money itself, is being rewritten. And at the center of the transformation is XRP. For years, people called it hype, a theory, a rumor. But the data, the partnerships, and the financial system's internal architecture all say the same thing now. XRP's real value isn't being measured in price, it's being measured in liquidity. And when that liquidity demand turns on, the current price will look microscopic. Let's start with what the banks themselves are saying. Behind closed doors, executives are warning that the global payment system, the one built in the 1970s through SWIFT, can't handle what's coming next. We're talking about instant settlements, multi-currency transaction, tokenized securities, and 24/7 real-time liquidity. The old model of pre-funded accounts, where 27 trillion sits in idle nostro vostro traps, is being dismantled piece by piece. Now think about this. 27 trillion is parked just to make cross-border payments possible. Imagine the inefficiency. That's not capital working. That's capital frozen. And Ripple's solution, powered by XRP, directly targets that inefficiency by freeing trapped liquidity. For years, that was theory. Today, it's the blueprint banks are adopting. Why? Because the math doesn't lie. XRP is faster, cheaper, bridgeable, and most importantly, liquid. Let's talk liquidity, not as a buzzword, but as the blood flow of global finance. Every transaction on Earth requires it. Without liquidity, economies suffocate. But here's what most people miss. Price isn't value. Liquidity is value. If you can move $1 billion in seconds without moving the market, that's real utility. Today's XRP daily volume is around a few $1 billion. That's nothing compared to the 10 trillion that moves daily through the banking sector. So when we say XRP's value is underestimated, we're not talking about market cap. We're talking about throughput capacity. Think of it this way. When the Medici family invented double entry bookkeeping, they didn't just create a new accounting system. They created the first scalable trust mechanism in finance. Ripple is doing the same thing, but in digital form, replacing manual ledgers with real-time settlement layers. Liquidity is the bridge, and XRP is the engine that drives it. Now, here's the key insight. The same one central banks and treasury departments have finally acknowledged we're moving from closed loops to open loops. In a closed loop, a bank moves money within its own network. JP Morgan moves dollars from one internal ledger to another. No XRP needed. But in an open loop, value moves between different systems, different blockchains, different countries, and different currencies. That's the future, and it requires a neutral bridge asset. That's where XRP comes in. It's not tied to any one bank, nation, or currency. It's the first digital asset designed to provide instant, neutral liquidity across all financial networks. And that's why insiders are calling it the most strategically positioned digital asset in existence. If you're wondering how this transition looks in real terms, I want you to imagine two islands. Island A, the old world. Banks like Citi, JP Morgan, and HSBC, all moving trillions internally, locked inside their own systems, okay? Island B, the new digital world. Tokenized assets, CBDCs, stablecoins, securities, and real-time blockchain networks. To move value between those islands, you need a bridge. That bridge is liquidity. And the first true global liquid asset, the one capable of instant conversion between every major pair, is XRP. Here's where the math gets fascinating. Most investors think market cap limits XRP's potential, that it can't reach triple or quadruple digit prices because of total supply. That's a misunderstanding. Market cap doesn't move value, liquidity does. A higher XRP price means fewer tokens are needed to settle larger values. In other words, the higher the price, the more efficient the network becomes. Let's make it simple here. If XRP is $1, it takes billions of tokens to settle global payments. If XRP is $100, it takes a fraction of that supply to do the same job. At the dollar, the system clogs. At $100 or more, it flows seamlessly. That's why insiders say a higher XRP price isn't speculation, it's requirement. Liquidity at scale demands it. Just like how oil became the lubricant of industrial growth, XRP becomes the lubricant of digital value exchange. Let's connect things to hear what's happening behind the scenes. In 2025 alone, Ripple has aligned itself with some of the largest liquidity providers and fintech infrastructures on the planet, from GTreasury integrations to cross-border tokenization pilots involving major institutions like BlackRock and Citi. Every one of these integrations points to the same goal: consolidating global liquidity under interoperable networks. Think of it as the internet of value finally going live. Just like in the 1990s, when most people didn't realize that packet switch networks would replace fax machines. Today, most investors have no idea that liquidity switch systems are replacing SWIFT. Bank insiders aren't warning because they're bearish. They're warning because they're behind schedule. They know once XRP becomes the standardized liquidity rail, price discovery will never look the same again. This is about structural demand. And every day that another corridor, bank, or payment network connects to RippleNet, the global liquidity pool gets deeper and XRP becomes harder to ignore. When the switch flips, when central banks and clearinghouses and corporate treasuries all begin sourcing on-demand liquidity instead of pre-funded accounts, the multiplier effect on XRP's price will be historic. Because remember, the world doesn't need more tokens. It needs more value per token. That means price utility rises to meet utility. And that's why $100 XRP isn't crazy. It's logical. At that level, the system achieves global liquidity, equilibrium, efficient, enough to move trillions without friction, scalable enough to connect every asset, and stable enough to anchor the financial internet. This is the liquidity shock most insiders are preparing for, where demand for XRP's utility far exceeds current supply in motion. Retail holders won't even have to chase hype. The network itself will be doing the buying. So when you hear the noise, the skepticism, the headlines, manipulation, remember this. Banks don't warn about assets they don't fear. They warn about assets they can't control. The transition from closed financial systems to an open liquidity network has already begun. Ripple built the rails. XRP powers the flow. And when this network goes fully live, it won't just change prices. It will redefine value itself. Share this video before it happens, because when the liquidity floodgates open, the world won't be ready. If this opened your eyes, smash that like button, ring the bell, leave a comment with your thoughts, turn on notifications, and most importantly, subscribe to the Crypto Republic, bringing you the truth about XRP, global banking moves, and the wealth transfer already unfolding. Don't just watch history happen. Stay informed, stay ahead, stay in the Republic.